Thank you for joining me on the Fire Rescue Wellness Podcast. I'm your host, AZ. I find the research and resources and then provide the fire service with the so what, now what, to ensure the health and well-being of every member of our profession. Together, let's thrive. Hey, podcast listeners, happy February. It's your host, AZ. Today, this is episode 218, and I was joined by Dr. Allie Barry from South Dakota State University. Yes, she's a jackrabbit. No, we will not hold that against her because she is doing great work with both the volunteer fire service and the career fire service in my home state of South Dakota. So I was blown away by some of the information Allie shared with me regarding the volunteer fire service. Incredible. The tiny, tiny operating budgets, the holy moly, elderly firefighters that are still on the roster in volunteer departments. It was mind-blowing. I think you're going to really like this episode. We would certainly appreciate your rating and your review on your podcast app of choice. Have a great day. AZ's out. Listeners, it's another episode of the Fire Rescue Wellness Podcast, and today I am here with Dr. Allie Barry. Say hello to the guests. That was dumb.
How are you guys?
I said say hello to the guests. Say hello to the listeners. Let's try that. This is off to a
hello, listeners?
Yeah, hello, listeners. This is off to a great start. Powerful start. I'm going to switch up the order a little bit today because I officially met Allie a year ago at Science of the Station, and I was very intrigued with her talk because she said two words that always get my interest: South and Dakota. Allie is a professor at South Dakota State University. We will not hold that against her as a USD alum. We will not hold that against her. How did you end up there, Allie?
To be honest with you, I got my PhD at North Dakota State University, so huge rival for SDSU if anyone's following college football in the FCS. I graduated from North Dakota State in 2018, went down to Pitt State in Kansas for 4 years. So like really far south Kansas, like hour and a half south of Kansas City. It was primarily a teaching role. I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do, if I wanted to do more teaching or research out of my PhD. Realized about probably halfway through my 4 years there, I wanted more research, and found the perfect opportunity at SDSU 4 years out of that. And, I can't think of a better place to be for me right now.
Amazing. And I guess I've never put two and two together, but I'm going to ask you a question, and maybe I'm going to sound brilliant. Maybe I'm going to sound dumb. Did you do your PhD under Dr. Nate Dix? Is that the connection?
We got our PhD at the same time.
At the same time?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Cool.
So Nate's a dear friend of mine.
Okay. All right. Now everything is making sense. And Kansas is interesting. I drove to Kansas this past summer for the NSCA convention, and it's interesting. I mean,
yep.
It's very flat, at least where I was, very flat. So, well, I'm gonna ask you the typical. No, I'm not yet. I want to talk to you. It's very funny. People find out I'm from South Dakota, and they're like, "Oh my God, it's so beautiful there, and the mountains and that Rushmore thing." And I'm like, "You don't understand. There are two parts of South Dakota, and I lived, and Allie lives in the ugly part. Sorry."
Yes.
Yeah, it could not be more flat.
Yes. And I always think it's funny too when people talk about the Black Hills as mountains, because I went to the University of Montana in Missoula, Montana. Like, those are mountains, where the Black Hills, it's gorgeous, it's great, but I don't know if I'd consider them mountains.
It's right in the name, Black Hills.
Yes, absolutely. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. I've digressed enough. Allie, like, basically, who are you? How did you get to be where you are right at this moment?
Well, ironically, I always find this funny too every time I'm working with firefighters and they ask me, why are you working in fire? So, fun fact, I actually worked with preschoolers for a long time, looking at
Oh,
ways to
same.
improve their physical activity, and same response. They're like, well, we're really just like the same as like the grown up preschoolers is like, yes, this is what I'm learning. The fire service
They
is a
think they're
lot like
grown up. Yeah.
just like kids in adult bodies who like are just the best people to work with. Like that's how I envision a lot of the people that I'm working with, just like salt of the earth humans. But so I did my master's in that, looking at ways to decrease childhood obesity. About halfway through my PhD advisor had left NDSU. And I was sitting there and I was talking to Nate. Welcome, in comes Nate Dix into NDSU, and he's like, Allie, you should really think about doing some of your physical activity stuff in the fire service, because this opportunity was presenting itself to me. And he goes, I think you'd be a great fit. And I also think, like, now looking back at it, maybe selfishly for Nate, because he was doing a lot with cardiorespiratory fitness, a lot of VO2s, like load carriage, that kind of stuff. So did it like go well swimmingly with his research line? Oh, absolutely.
You got bamboozled.
But also yeah, but best decision I ever made. Like now I think about my personality and I tell my students or my graduate research assistants or whomever I'm working with, and they're like, I do not think you would fit well with preschoolers, Allie. I was like, I, in fact, was very good with them, but I am more well suited in the fire service. That's for dang sure.
It does take a certain personality type. Like, it takes a different breed of cat to work with firefighters.
Yes.
And those cats are generally feral.
Yes.
Yes.
I mean, I'm not the most like, I always, I like to like go outside of the bandwidth of maybe always acceptable things. Like, let's just be real.
I mean,
at the end of the day, that's what people want. Just genuine humans.
And if you happen to scribble outside the lines a little bit, intentionally or unintentionally, so be it. So be it.
Absolutely. Yep.
Amazing. What sets your soul on fire?
Oh geez. Like in a professional setting, honestly, for what I do in my professional life, it's actually seeing the aha moments when I'm working, let's say, research, and the firefighters, I'm talking about it. And I was actually in a meeting on Wednesday and I said something and you could just see it clicked. Like someone's here to support us and someone's here to advocate for us. And in a lot of sense too, like with them, because I also learned early on that there are, you can go in and say, I have this PhD, I have all these background information and whatever, but I'm not the owners in their lives, right? Like this lived experience where I can bring in evidence-based practice and now figure out how to apply it to, if you know one department, right? And I think that's honestly like what I live for now. And you can see it when my students are in the meetings now and you get the light bulbs going off of like, oh, I read how this connects. And these are like those things that are just those big think ideas where you're like, God, this is why I do what I do.
I agree 100%. And there's two ways to think about the fire service. Like every station, every shift is literally its own fire department because they're so different.
Yes.
But yet you can go across the country and it's just, the same clowns at a different circus. So it's crazy.
Yep. Yep. Absolutely.
And then I want to know, last question before we start digging into your research. How are you changing the world?
Believing in people, I think.
Ooh, good one.
A lot of people I've realized, whether it's my students or, my colleagues, the departments I'm working with, I think it's like believing in people, believing that everyone belongs to some group, whether it is you're looking at an academic setting, you're in a fire setting, everyone has their purpose. So I believe that like when I hire you on to work with my team or whatever, I believe in you. I believe you bring some invaluable skill set that, either I don't have time for, I don't want to do, or that you enhance what we're already doing. And so I think it's like believing in people to make it a more cohesive sense of belonging in a way.
This is very relatable because my advisor, Dr. Dawes, sometimes just says, yeah, I just don't want to do that. That's why you're
Yep.
doing it.
Yep.
And you know what? He's earned that. So I love it.
Yes. Yes.
So Allie has a very outstanding perspective that I share only from a very, I guess, would it be ancillary standpoint? I'm not sure if that's quite the right word. I mean, I grew up in a small town with a volunteer fire department, and that is my extent of knowledge. And let me tell you, they never lost a foundation, those poor guys. But that's my extent of knowledge in the fire service. So as you started, should we start like really broad and then zoom into your research? Tell us about
absolutely.
the volunteer fire service in general or in South Dakota, however you want to start.
Okay. So to be honest with you, my first like 6 years of working with the fire service was all in career. So until I moved to South Dakota, I had no idea about the volunteer world. I got there, Brookings, where SDSU is located, also where I live, is all volunteer. It's
Wild.
like, this is wild.
A college town.
College town. They only have 3 paid career, their chief and 2 people below him, essentially. Everyone else, they have 60 plus volunteers, which is also kind of wild when you think about it, where they have to waitlist people because volunteerism across the board is going down. So something we can talk about later, but some of these things where I'm just sitting there, I'm like, this is mind-boggling, right? So it took me about 1.5 years to learn what the volunteer fire service then entails, because everything's so different. It can be how they're funded. Brookings, for instance, has a city budget. Most don't. Most are on pancake feeds, street dances. Like, this is how they're making their money. They have an average annual budget, some of them, of $3,000 a year.
I beg your deepest pardon. $3,000 a year?
Yeah. Yeah. And so now you like think about that, you know, as well as I do, like minimal costs. I mean, just thinking about gear. You couldn't even buy a third of the gear for one person on $3,000.
Holy hell, in a handbasket.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm coming in saying, well, you guys need to be fit. And they're like, we can't even afford things, let alone now you're going to make me be fit. And so a lot of it, you know, and I talk about this all the time, it's always changing the narrative. So changing the narrative from, I don't need you to be fit to fight fire, but I need you to be fit enough so you don't die. And because as I started looking into this in that first year in South Dakota, there were 3 cardiac deaths in the volunteer fire service the year I came. And, you know, people are like, Allie, you need to do something about it. I'm like, okay, guys, you know, I'm working on it. It's my first year here. I'm trying to learn SDSU. Like, I'm there. But I think that's honestly what created such immense buy-in was, you know, some of them kept saying like, Allie, it hasn't happened yet, but doesn't mean it's not going to happen to you. Some of them were saying, you know, we've always heard there's people out there. We know some people care, but we wanted to see someone in South Dakota, because that's the one thing I think is unique about the volunteer fire service versus career, is that they want someone in their back door, where career's pretty open to anyone, where volunteer wants it like stamped with state approval. And nothing bleeds better than the yellow and blue in South Dakota. And so, you know, like that ownership, and it's such a wild world. And then you think about too, like the oldest firefighter in it. How do you think the oldest firefighter in South Dakota age would be?
78.
93.
93. At 93, are they driving? What are they doing?
Well, I hope they're just part of the call tree.
Ugh.
Like maybe ringing in of like, I'm here, not gonna do anything, or I'm, from afar. But like, that is the fire service in general. We're seeing it's aging. But now thinking about volunteer, it's aging at a rapid rate than career is.
Can we go back to the budget thing for a second? So,
Yeah, of course.
three you've encountered departments with a yearly operating budget of $3,000. Now, you said Brookings as a city does have a budget. Do you happen to know what their budget is?
It's a lot higher than
Yeah.
that. So
Okay.
they have a tax-based budget for Brookings Fire.
Okay.
Where some of them don't. And I think that is the wildest part about it. So volunteer, what I'm realizing is like we have some departments that don't have running water
In their station?
in South Dakota. Yeah. Cause you think about it, it's a metal shed in the middle of nowhere. Right? Because now think about South Dakota, where you grew up, the rurality of the state. Like half of our counties in our state are what we consider frontier counties. You know?
Wow.
So it's just now you think about it at a grander scale, is that now think about rural America in general. Less access to healthcare, less access to grocery stores, large chain grocery stores, healthy food options. We have more food deserts, like, so now not only is it just an issue for Gen Pop, but now we're thinking about our volunteer firefighters who probably don't have means to do anything to improve health and wellness in some areas. And it's not isolated in South Dakota. You think about North Dakota, Minnesota has pockets that are more urban, right? But it's still the same issue, different state. So the issues are exacerbated in the volunteer fire service in those areas where we can't do a lot about it in some cases, and in others we can. But now it's like, what does accessibility look like? How do you change this narrative where it's not just for you to be a good firefighter, but it's also longevity and quality of life, right? And so I think that's where it's so different than career. Because career, you can also say, like, you need this for your job, you're getting paid. But you're asking people to volunteering on something that could be very impactful on their life.
Oh my gosh. You remind me, I believe you said, are there 3 or 5 fully career fire departments?
5.
So Rapid City, Sioux Falls, Aberdeen.
Rapid City, Sioux Falls, Aberdeen, Mitchell, and Watertown.
In the whole state.
Out of the 294 departments.
I am interested to know. So you had the 93-year-old firefighter. I'm interested to know, like, he's probably not the only one, is he? No.
And I mean, you're looking at a state where the average age is, in their 40s to 50s for firefighters, where you're looking at in the career setting, and they're looking at their way out. If not, they're already out at that age, where that's the majority of our firefighters in the volunteer area.
Let me talk for a second, and we'll bring it right back to fire, but I just have to know for a second. EMS, let's just talk Brookings. Do you have like a hospital-based EMS system, or is it also volunteer EMS?
It is hospital-based in Brookings. It is with Brookings Health System, but so North Dakota and South Dakota have the highest also with volunteer EMS.
Yeah, and my hometown has volunteer EMS, I think.
Yep. And I think a lot of it going through there is now seeing to, like, EMS is just chaotic at baseline. We're seeing in America, right? And now we're having these volunteers who and some of them are like certified and doing all of these things, but some of them aren't. And again, like one of the big things that came up in some of the conferences and calls that I've had with people is honestly, Allie, this is what they say to me. They're like, honestly, some people have a heart attack in the middle of nowhere and we're their only hope, and we have to still drive them 2+ hours. Are they going to make it? And I just, like some of those things are mind boggling too, right?
I do wonder though, because the access to EMS is lower, I'm guessing that the abuse of EMS is also way lower because it's just such a huge pain in the keister to call EMS.
Yes.
No one's
Yeah.
calling for a sniffle or a sore toe.
Yeah. Correct. It's major life events.
Yeah.
And you think too, like rural America is farmland. So now it's like crisis accidents, like very traumatic things that could happen in farm accidents.
If a farmer ever tells you he has chest pain, he or she has chest pain, you need to immediately.
Yes.
Yes, because this is real.
Yeah. And what's also sad too, and this is something that one of the volunteers was telling me earlier this year, he said, Allie, the biggest issue though is now it's my friend. I'm going and I'm seeing my friend die.
Yes.
Or their kid or whatever. And you just like those things that it's a real, right? It's still real if you're a career, but now in volunteer, what's the aftermath of this? What are we doing for behavioral health? What are we doing we're not doing anything, at least in South Dakota.
Because the resources just aren't there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just need a moment. Okay. We can, let's come back off of EMS and back to fire. And so you've kind of painted a picture of what it looks like, at least where you are. So talk to me about how you are either currently making an impact or hope to make an impact, or if someone had $1 million to give you, what you would do to make an impact. Let's dig into that.
So currently I finished my needs assessment, right? I talked about that at Science to the Station. Did some data on that baseline departments, still like 59 departments and it was spread throughout the state of South Dakota in places where, they might not have the best internet connection. So they're doing this on their cell phone, right? And what I learned though from that is that they want help. They want someone to come in and do something. Baseline things, was it shocking? No. All the information we knew. There's no money to do anything. Resources are very scarce. But a lot of the kind of like the aha moments were, how do I convince volunteers to volunteer for something like this? So again, changing that narrative of like, well, you're not volunteering for this study, you're volunteering for improving your life. So that was something that has been interesting. I did my first round of focus groups I completed in October. My graduate student, he came with me for that. And that was the first time he really integrated himself in the fire service. And the volunteers were very transparent. They were talking about mental health. They were talking about suicide. They're talking about, cardiac deaths. They're talking about all these things. And my graduate student looks at me and he goes, Dr. Barry, your life sucks. And I was like, oh my God, why? Why does my life suck? And he was like, this is a lot. Like, how do you sit here and listen to it? And I said, I know I'm making an impact because they wouldn't just willingly share this information with me if they didn't trust that I could help do something. So I think getting this word out and having this FEMA grant and being able to do some of these things, I think I'm buying and gaining the trust in people in a way. But then I'm also providing other resources. I have a monthly newsletter that goes out to, I think now over 200 people in South Dakota, some, sprawled in Minnesota, North Dakota. But we do newsletters for nutrition and exercise and, other opportunities to be involved in other research projects. Maybe it's also showing, the State Farm grant for volunteer firefighters. I put all that information in there so that it's a resource hub for them once a month. And, I just had a call with a few of the fire chiefs this past week, and they're like, Allie, I can't tell you how much I appreciate being able to send this out and saying, hey guys, here's some like people who have degrees and who supposedly know what they're talking about, right? They want to help. So reach out to them. Like, so I think that there's like these small pockets of opportunity on top of the grants, but it's also not only just impacting me, but two of my students, their dad's a volunteer firefighter in one of the rural departments. And they work on my research project with me. And they're like, I did not know how hard this job is and what my dad sacrifices. And like they knew, but now really understanding like the physiological effects of it, understanding the mental effects of it, understanding how the behavior has an extreme effect, especially in volunteers, has been impactful. But then I also think about it at other levels too. It's growing awareness. I now have another grant that I'm working with Sioux Falls Fire, and they are now doing some of these same things. So it's like, it's almost like a snowball effect right now. So I think that there's a lot of great things coming from it. And if I had $1 million, I would want people to invest in our ideas, but then also like co-sponsor what we're doing. How can we get equipment out to these rural departments? How can we, change or provide more resources to them? Because I mean, what it's like working in a university setting. I can't do everything for free. And I think that's the hardest part of my job right now. Is like one of the chiefs told me, he was like, it's ironic, Allie, that I have to pay the state entity that you work for, that I also volunteer for, to get services provided to me. And you just sit back and you're like, it is wild, but also like, I don't make the rules.
If I did make the rules, they would be different.
Yes. So like, I think like you think about this big picture, and gosh, the sky's the limit. It's so exciting. It's creating such good buy-in of what the volunteer fire service is capable of when you have wildly good humans to work with.
Ooh, that's a good quote. What they're capable of when you have wildly good humans to work with.
Yeah.
So we'll definitely come back to the volunteers, but now I'm a nosy bee, and I want to hear what you're doing with Sioux Falls, because I have a couple people I know there. So what is your project there?
OSHA, if federal government, whatever happens to it, and mandates and whatever, when they do or do not come back, they talked about how they want to mandate those NFPA guidelines, especially for health and wellness. Well, regardless if you're career or volunteer, that is the wild part. So that's the one thing why South Dakota is like, all right, Allie, you need to help us with the volunteer fire service, because if this comes to fruition, what the hell are we going to do? And you're like, well, I don't know. Good question.
The government cannot probably understand the ramifications of this.
No.
I mean, there's going to be big ramifications in career, but in volunteer, it'll incinerate the volunteer fire service.
They think 1/4 of all departments in South Dakota will close if it goes into fruition. A fourth.
So now, instead of an hour response time, it could be much longer.
Yeah. So that's kind of where I started talking with Sioux Falls Fire, and oh my gosh, Assistant Chief Gramlich, that guy is the best human to work with. And then not only is he the best, but now everyone I work with there is just like lights out. We're going to move and we're going to change shit, Allie. Like, that's constantly what they're telling me. I'm like, great, love this.
Let's go.
What we did is we're building a blueprint, because they have a lot of wonderful things going for them. Like Sioux Falls Fire is legit. They have great things. They want to be more proactive than reactive. Like, they already have a lot of good things going. But how can we polish it so it maybe now looks at how are we utilizing the resources and making them better? Or are there resources that we, like the firefighters themselves, don't want to invest in anymore, and they want to make it more individual? like, or they want to enhance in a different perspective. So we're looking at it more so from the exercise, physical activity, and nutrition portion. So I have a registered dietitian on it. I have Nate is the tactical exercise content expert for it. I have Dr. Jessica Mandering. She's also a mentor on my FEMA grant, but she is an expert in community-based participatory research. So how can we bring evidence-based, but also the lived experience from the firefighters themselves to build this blueprint? And I also have another faculty from NDSU who is really good with like kind of like programmatic reviews and like really looking at the needs assessments and understanding how can you do something that's sustainable for the department, right? Because as you well know, is the worst thing researchers are doing is they go in and they do something, then they leave, and it doesn't actually benefit the department. So within this blueprint, what the idea is people can call Sioux Falls Fire and say, how did you do this? And they can literally hand it to them and say, here's our blueprint. Here are the experts that we worked with. Call them up. And so, like, like it's not what Sioux Falls Fire does is not going to work for Fargo Fire, but they can take points in it and modify it. Because that's the worst part is that we are really good. And gosh, the research community within fire is just amazing where share your resources, help out. And now I think that's the idea is like what resources I build with these different departments, how can we translate it and reach more communities to allow them to utilize it too, but then taking ownership in their own fashion.
I was just thinking as you were talking, because we also in Oklahoma have, we have the metro area, of course, but then a lot of it's volunteer as well. But what could we build at Oklahoma City that then people could come in, spend a few days, like a field trip, if you will. And sort of get a sense for, what can they use, take what they can use, leave the rest. That's genius.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, I like that.
And so I think like Sioux Falls, the city of Sioux Falls built, I always mess up this acronym, and if Mike listens to this, he's going to be disappointed. But essentially it's like a safety center.
Okay.
$50 million. And it has their gun range. It has a racing, like chasing track thing that they can then go into the gun range, open up a door so law enforcement can practice all these real life scenarios. They have burn towers. They have it's dispatch is also hosted within fire there. Like it is state of the art, amazing, right? But it's this idea of like, if you build it, they'll come. But then how can we show how these things work so other people don't have to reinvent the wheel?
Yes, because the biggest thing I always hear is, oh, but we can't do that. We're too small, or we're too whatever. We don't have money.
Yes.
But it's like, I like that word you used. It's a blueprint. And just like when you're building a house, you take your little eraser and you change what doesn't work.
Yes. Yeah.
Was that $50 million center? Was that a result of the grant, of a grant?
No, this it was all city based, I believe. They just finished it 2 years ago.
Okay.
And so I think it was tax based initiative. If I remember, I'm pretty sure that's what it was. I don't know off the top of my head.
Oh, fun fact. My niece is graduating from high school in May. And so I have graduation. Maybe we should have a meetup at the Sioux Falls Training Center.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Let's do it.
Yeah.
Okay. So anything else that you know of that's kind of going on in Sioux Falls? And then we're going to get back to the volunteers. Do you know how it's been a long time since I worked with them in any capacity. I did some speaking a long time ago.
Mm-hmm.
Do they utilize peer fitness trainers? Do you know?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
How's that going for them?
That's something we're looking at bringing. I mean, COVID, I think, was something that really took a toll on the peer fitness trainers, I think. And so that's something that we're looking at is like revitalizing that in this blueprint model. And they have their annual health assessments, they have all those things, looking at like what their annual PT test should look like versus, making the difference, right, between being so rigorous that everyone gets, like just anxious as all get out versus everyone passes.
Right.
And those are concepts that I talk with, a bunch of fire departments right now, and those are the conversations everyone's having. In Sioux Falls, it is part of their contract that they have to pass it, otherwise they do go on some oh gosh, I can't remember the word, but essentially they're like taken off the truck for 3 months in
Okay.
order to pass, like an improvement plan, if you will,
Okay.
to then allow them time to make sure that they can pass it.
Okay.
So it is not just like ultimately punitive. It's more so, how can we build this up and do this? And I think that's wonderful, right? Because it's not saying like, I think the idea then in the culture is they want you to succeed.
Mm-hmm.
And that is more important than anything.
Agreed. Agreed. I do strongly believe in well-placed standards that make
Yes.
sense, but
Yes.
also you have to have a means in place to quote unquote rehabilitate people and allow
Yep.
them to succeed. And
Yes.
that's where a lot of departments just feel like, I say feel like because I'm not sure if it's actually as much of a limitation as they might think, but they feel like they can't be taking people off the trucks and
Yep.
allowing them to,
Yep.
yeah, that
Yep.
makes sense.
Yep.
So how long do you believe it will be before volunteer departments can maybe start coming to Sioux Falls and looking at them, or even career departments as the blueprint? Is that kind of maybe a year away? Is it already happening?
Um, Sioux Falls would welcome anyone.
Yeah.
Like at any time. They honestly, like, I cannot talk about it enough on it. Like, oh my gosh, they are just like salt of the earth again, people. Like, maybe it's just like the like the Midwest in general. I don't
It
know.
is.
Um
It is.
but there's something about Midwesterners, and I'm only speaking on it because like I've just lived up and down I-29, my whole life. But from there is just this idea like of a collective whole, is we want everyone to be the best version of themselves. So how can I give you the ability to do that? And I think Sioux Falls is that exact mentality. And they're always willing. I know like they've helped other departments who have brought on dispatch underneath fire. I know that they've talked to other departments who've reached out with them about that. And I think it's, yeah, they know what's up. Like they're just really good for, what they're able to do.
And
And now the leadership mentality of finding experts outside of fire, instead of just saying, oh, you like CrossFit, you should now do all this, like, so it's actually bringing in those evidence-based people to come in and really help them solidify their programs.
amen. Preach it louder. And also, fun fact, Sioux Falls has at least 2 fire stations that are super, super cool. The first one that comes to mind is it used to be a mortuary.
Oh yeah,
And
yep.
and the guys claim that they see people like walking around at night.
Yep. Yep.
If memory serves, their kitchen is where the preparation room used to be. I think that's what they told me. Gross.
Yep, we just were there on Wednesday.
Gross. I used to work
Yep.
at the Hardee's fast food restaurant in the parking lot right there. Isn't that
Oh,
crazy?
okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then their oldest station, the one that still has the hayloft, and they have their gym
Yes.
in the hayloft.
Yes. Yes.
So cool.
Yes.
So cool. Yeah.
Yes.
Really, really, really a lot of history there. Okay, so instead of reminiscing more about South Dakota, we should talk now more about the volunteers. And so, Allie, it sounds like you are making huge strides with education with your newsletter. what's the next step? What's the next piece of the puzzle in the solution?
So we finish the firefighter focus groups, like firefighter rank, right? We do a fire chiefs one in the spring. And then the third year of the FEMA grant is to roll out based off of the needs assessment survey, what we're learning from the focus groups, to roll out a wellness initiative to 2 departments in South Dakota, where they will be able to then do this over, I can't remember the time span that I put in the grant off the top of my head right now, but that they'll actually be able to implement it. So then we'll have like these test pilot departments in South Dakota to look at wellness initiatives for volunteer firefighters. And I think that in itself is going to be like a huge accomplishment, because again, it's building that blueprint that we can then show to take to other departments across the state and or within the region.
Proof of concept.
Yeah. Yeah. And so it's just like, it's so cool to be able to then put it in practice, and be able to then bring more awareness to it, but then also at that same time show that it can be done. And that's huge.
That's incredibly huge. What are you seeing what are going to be the barriers? We already know money is a barrier. We can just recognize that. Is it time, equipment? What are your biggest barriers, do you think?
Time.
Mm-hmm.
But isn't that it for everyone?
Oh yeah.
You know, like, so are they any different than what general population? No. A lot of it too is resources and equipment and accessibility, and do they have content experts in their cities majority of the time? Or I mean, not even cities, like towns maybe, that they don't have that. I mean, you think about it, over half don't have a large chain grocery store within 30 miles. And so those are just, so then how do you cook on a budget? How do you shop on a budget? How do you meal prep? So it's all these other same concepts that we're seeing. It's not any different than anyone else. But now how do you build these resources that actually allow for those things to happen? And I think that's something that we're trying to learn more about, I guess.
I just keep coming back to, if you have very, very, very little money, very little space, like what kind of a kit could you build to send places? You already got this? You got your finger on the pulse, like TRX and a couple other things. Yeah. And then not only are you getting this kit, then we're going to tell you what to do with it.
Yes. And then on top of it too, like, how do you reassess? Because what we're seeing is that, like, autonomy within anyone in tactical law enforcement, military, fire, list goes on. They want the autonomy to do things on their own. Mm-hmm. So then what do annual assessments look like in fire? They don't need to come to a lab that's well equipped with, metabolic cards, blood draw, all that. Like, that's not going to happen in the volunteer fire service. So we're also now looking at the same time, Nate's looking at this spring studies to do in volunteer or assessments for volunteer firefighters, really solidifying, can we pack it up in a tote and bring it there? But then also, can they do it on their own? Because they, like, you could use VO2 masters, you could use K5s, you can do all these cardiovascular assessments, right? Like, this actual equipment. But the volunteer fire service isn't going to do that. Right? So, like, then how are we meeting them where they're at? I think that's probably been my theme of life for the last year and a half, is meeting them where they're at, but then enhancing them at the same time. Because you can't go in and say, oh, well, they're not capable. It's like working with older adults, right? And my students did a presentation the other day, and they're talking about how the older lady said, you're not going to break the grandma. Well, now, so it's that same idea. Like, we need to meet the volunteer fire service where they're at, but then being able to enhance it. So I think that's where a lot of these things come in, on these big picture think ideas, but then don't leave them. Don't do one study with the volunteer fire service and then say, well, best of luck. And yeah, like just sign out. Like that's not helpful either. So then it creates such a huge barrier for me to go in because someone already burnt the bridge.
Yeah, it's almost more helpful to not ever do anything than to do something
Yes.
and then let them down.
Yes.
They hate that.
Yes.
Everyone hates that.
Yeah. Oh gosh, yeah.
Oh my gosh, this is so exciting. And then in terms of the nutritional intervention education, are you thinking like app-based or
oh gosh.
Not ready to say yet?
I have no idea, to be honest with you. What we did learn, though, a lot of them don't like a lot of technology. So it's like meeting them again in the middle somewhere where, like, how do you do these resources and build it out, but not use technology?
Yeah, that's rough.
Yeah.
Well, and maybe it's just as simple as, you know, the study that Dr. Jill Joyce did here at OSU, where she simply found that if she provided produce and kept it on the counter and almonds and stuff like that, and then, you know, she didn't take away their brownies, their cake, their cookies, she just put them in the cabinets, and they ate a lot more produce. Like maybe it's just as simple as educating them on interventions like that. And
yeah. Because I think that's a hard part within volunteers. Like, they're not at the station, right?
Yeah.
They
so
only
this is
come
at
in
home.
Yeah. It's mainly at home. Yeah. And the bigger issue too is no one wants to be told what to eat.
No. Well, and it may be very different in volunteers than it is in career. And this is anecdotally, this is not a study or a survey or anything. It's just anecdotally. A good percentage of firefighters have told me throughout the years they eat actually way better at the station than they eat at home, which is horrifying because I see how they eat at the station.
Yep. A lot of them talk to me too about portion size. Like they eat better quality meals, but they overeat at the station. Yeah. And so then they talk about how I eat far less at home, but maybe not as nutrient dense.
Yes.
As when they're at the fire station.
Oh boy. This is a lot, Allie. You have a lot on your plate. Your real plate. But also the fact that you got a FEMA grant, you have been doing research for how long? 6 years?
This is my 8th year out of my PhD, I think. Yeah.
I'm like super impressed about that.
Well, thank you. I honestly, I appreciate that. That's
a FEMA grant, that's huge.
Yeah, I think it's all about, gosh, the connections you make, to be honest with you. Everyone asks, like, Allie, you're really, am I successful? I don't, like, I've worked really hard and I've gotten lucky in the sense, like, I feel like there's a little bit of luck in grants, but there's also a lot of hard work, making the right connections, and honestly, just being a genuine human.
Yeah. It kind of all boils down to be a good, Mike Connor says this all the time from Frontline, be a good dude or a good dudette. Yeah. And you're going to do a lot better. You're more useful as a good dude.
Yes. Absolutely.
I want to be really respectful of your time, but also I feel like maybe, is there something we missed that we should have hit on regarding the volunteers or the career firefighters that you've worked with or your research or anything like that?
Gosh, I think we've hit almost everything.
Oh, I love it. I love it when a plan comes together. So now we get to talk about my favorite part, which is, I already know the answer because I met your dog before we started, but tell me about your dog.
So I have a golden doodle. She is 12 or 13 now. Wow. She is very spry. She is, I don't know if it's a doodle personality, but she is just the sassiest dog in the world. Very opinionated. The one fun fact that everyone always mocks me for is that I come up to Fargo to get her groomed. So Fargo is about 2 hours and 15 minutes away from Brookings. I also grew up in Fargo, so like my mom lives here. She also appreciates that I come up, about every 6 to 8 weeks just to get her groomed at a specific groomer in Fargo.
Okay, but I'm going to be honest. I have actually started considering going all the way back to Illinois, which is a 12 hour drive for my hair because I'm having such a hard time down here in Oklahoma with my hair.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
relatable.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And also the crazy thing about doodles is that they remind me of humans in dog suits. Like
Oh
they
gosh,
just
yeah.
they're not dogs. I don't think they're dogs.
No.
They're
No.
masquerading as dogs.
Yes, and they think that they're better than any other dog.
Oh, yes. Very
You know?
refined, much
Yeah.
importance.
Yes.
Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
that's crazy. And what's the dog's name?
Yeah. Luna.
Luna. I love it. Well, I really enjoyed this conversation, and can I put your contact information in the show notes?
Of course. Of
Okay.
course.
We'll put Allie's contact information in the show notes in case you want to rap with her about the volunteer fire service or her blueprints or any of the exciting work she's doing with her FEMA grant. And I think with that, we can probably drop the mic. What do you think?
Yeah, that sounds wonderful. Thank you
Okay.
again so much.
Of course. And it is, listeners, it has been AZ and Allie Barry, and we are officially out. Thanks for listening.